Chapter 11:17, The Strongest Organization. As the flames flickered, Derek and company subconsciously looked at the long dark red table. The first thing they noticed was the figure closest to them. The figure wore a simple linen robe and had a head of long silver hair and indiscernible facial features. It made Colin, Lovia, and Derek find the figure oddly familiar. In an instant, they felt as though a bolt of lightning struck their minds, illuminating their blurry memories. Angel of Fate Ouroboros. Just as the pupils of the team from the City of Silver dilated, the figure turned around and looked at them. A pair of indifferent eyes immediately occupied their vision as extraordinary mysterious rings appeared. In a daze, Derek saw a figure in front of him. He was a handsome, radiant, and energetic man. He wore a pure white robe and had short golden hair. With his appearance, the surroundings became abnormally bright. The warm feeling was like a ray of light, instantly filling every spot. Derek felt as though he had seen the day, as mentioned in legends, momentarily forgetting where he was or what he was doing. The man took a step forward, and his blurry figure overlapped with Derek. Then, Derek sat beside the dark red long table, occupying one of the high-back chairs. He had become the handsome and radiant man who was attending a secret gathering. At the same time, the grizzled City of Silver chief, Colin, whose face was covered in old scars, encountered the same blurry and illusory figure. The figure was 7 to 8 meters tall. He was wearing silver full-body armor, and his eyes were glowing like the light of dawn. He raised the long sword in his hand, letting it press against Colin Iliad's forehead like a scepter. Demon Hunter Colin struggled for a moment, but he quickly calmed down when he was enveloped by the orange light. With that, he and the giant in front of him merged into one. He strode towards the dark red table and sat on the second seat on the right. Shepherd Lovia encountered a man in a long black robe. He had black curly hair over his shoulders and a pair of eyes that seemed to be covered in shadows. It was difficult to see his face clearly, but the silver threads, complicated patterns, and gorgeous accessories were directly reflected in her mind. Lovia trembled and couldn't help but lower her head, allowing the layers of black wings on the man's back to wrap around her. She became the man and walked to the end of the dark red table. There were 2 high-back chairs with complex patterns placed there. Lovia chose the left one. The remaining members of the City of Silver's expedition team also encountered similar situations, but the figures they faced were different. After they found their seats on both sides of the dark red table, the area around the empty high-back chair at the seat of honor became darker, outlining a female figure that seemed to be shrouded in fog. Right on the heels of that, a voice that seemed to transmigrate from ancient times echoed in the ears of the attendees. "We are trying to redeem ourselves and also maintain the balance of this world." Dissociation and deviation are undoubtedly the most basic order. This is also in line with his thoughts. I can't deny that we all have our own sinister thoughts and desires, but this is very normal. Death and spilling blood are inevitable, in the name of Rose's redemption. Above the gray fog, Klein listened attentively. He couldn't wait to hear more of the content said by the voice. However, whether it was the scene or the voice, it began to loop. It was as if it had only been fixed at a section, lasting less than a minute. This is the scene of the establishment of the Rose Redemption. Previously, the Red Angel Evil Spirit said that this was an extremely secretive organization established by a group of corrupted angels. Now, it seems like that isn't the case. The person who said that was probably not Medici, but either Sauron and Einhorn. They actually didn't know much about Rose Redemption. Klein mumbled inwardly as he cast his gaze back at the City of Silver team that were repeating the actions like puppets, approaching the table, sitting down, listening, and leaving. When the torches around the hall lit up one after another, Klein had already found something unusual with his true vision. He saw the murals on the wall come alive and rapidly expand, overlapping with the hall. It made the table, chairs, and floor tiles that had been cold for thousands of years warm up once again. It made the figures that had once been in this secret meeting cross the borders of time, reviving at their fixed seats, allowing the words from the past to reappear. Many of those figures were familiar to Klein. One of them was the Angel of Fate Ouroboros. This king of angels, who was still a member of the Rose Redemption, was the most lifelike among all the illusory figures. Combined with how the scenes were looping, Klein began to suspect the person who left the murals was Tael, Devourer Ouroboros. In the previous temple ruins, there were murals left behind by him, likewise for the ruins of the Battle of the Gods. In the Giant King's court, there are similar murals and signs of those powers. I wouldn't believe it if anyone were to say it's not him. Just how much does this king of angels like murals? He draws them wherever he goes. Klein couldn't help but lampoon Ouroboros in his mind. The second figure he noticed was sitting beside the Angel of Fate Ouroboros. He was dressed in black armor that seemed to be splashed with blood. He had red hair that resembled fire, looking young and handsome. The reason why he paid attention to this figure was because he had seen it in his dreams. In addition, it was also the most arrogant person among all the figures. Not only did it sit back in its chair, but it also placed its feet on the dark red long table. It didn't mind that the surrounding people were high-level figures of the same status. Red Angel Medici. These are the kings of angels who participated in the secret gathering. Who else is involved? As Klein's thoughts raced, he decided to first rescue the people from the City of Silver who couldn't exit the looping cycles of fate. He had a lot of experience in this aspect. Yes, the medium to the loop is the hall itself. However, there's no need to attempt to destroy it. As long as it can temporarily break the cycle of fate, the dusk outside will seep in and dispel any abnormalities. They belong to the divine kingdom itself. In terms of status, they can only be stronger or on par with the power left behind by Ouroboros. After observing for a few seconds, Klein quickly came to a conclusion. After flipping a gold coin for a divination, he immediately spread his spirituality towards the crimson star representing the sun. Derek Berg's spirit body immediately tore through the cycle of fate, creating an invisible crack. The orange glow from the light of dusk outside the palace immediately surged into the hall from the window up high. Without waiting for Little Sun to figure out his situation, for fear that the true creator would lock onto him, Klein didn't hesitate to let him return to the real world. Derek snapped out of his daze and realized that he had unknowingly sat down at the side of the dark red table. He looked up blankly and saw the chief, Elder Lovia, Haim, Antiona, and the others. He realized that there were still certain traces of confusion on their faces. Thinking back to his experience just now, Derek was alert as he deliberated and said, "The cycle of fate." Indeed, Colin Iliad, who had experienced this before, nodded slightly and stood up. He looked around, and his gaze landed on the largest mural that he had seen lately. The mural depicted the same exact hall. There were similar columns, torches, the dark red table, complicated high-back chairs, and object layout. As for those high-back chairs, there were 11 figures sitting in them. At the very end were 2 seats, and along the table, 5 on the left and 4 on the right. The City of Silver team's eyes also followed the chief's and took in the corresponding scene. The 5 figures on the left were the beautiful silver-haired man, the red-haired and arrogantly seated man, an elder wearing a hood that exposed only his mouth, winkles, and beard, a dignified middle-aged man dressed in black armor, and a handsome man dressed in white robes. The 4 on the right were a black-robed mummy wrapped in bandages, a middle-aged man with facial features resembling the natives of the southern continent, a giant covered in silver armor, and a supple, beautiful, and dignified lady. The 2 high-back chairs at the very end were a man with dark black curly hair and a woman shrouded in fog. At that moment, a guardian raised his right hand and pointed at the handsome white-robed man. His figure is made up of mysterious symbols. These symbols represent White Angel Akases. Before the guardian could finish his sentence, he suddenly let out a tragic cry as golden flames spewed out from his body. He instantly became a charred corpse, as if it would be reduced to ashes the moment it was touched. It made Demon Hunter Colin and Shepherd Lovia incapable of saving him in time. Don't try to distinguish those symbols. They contain immense power, Colin hurriedly warned the others. And above the gray fog, Klein was thinking of another matter. White Angel Akases, That's the eternal blazing sun's true name. If not for the fact that the giant king's court itself isolates itself from projected powers. Just using Jotun to read this name will attract his attention and incur divine punishment. Amidst his thoughts, demon hunter Colin stabbed his swords in front of him, creating an invisible barrier. Then, this city of Silver chief identified the symbols and labels that formed those figures. He began reading it slowly and firmly from the left. Angel of Fate, Ouroboros. War Angel, Medici. Wisdom Angel, Hariburgen. At this point, the invisible barrier that was constantly shaking suddenly stopped. This was because this name was no stranger to the people of the City of Silver. This was the true name of the Dragon of Wisdom. Could it be that the Dragon of Wisdom later became the Wisdom Angel next to the Lord? Similar questions arose in everyone's hearts, but Klein discovered something strange. The history of the City of Silver had records of the name Hariburgen. The language they used on a daily basis was Jotun, a language that could mobilize the surrounding forces of nature. This also meant that, in the past 2,000 to 3,000 years, someone in the City of Silver had definitely read or written the name Hariburgen before, but there was no response from the god of knowledge and wisdom. The Church of Knowledge and Wisdom still wasn't able to find the forsaken land of the gods. At this moment, Colin Iliad controlled his emotions and continued reading. Wind Angel Leodero. White Angel Akasiz. Dark Angel Sasrir. Evernight Goddess Ammonizes. God of Combat Badhail. Earth Mother Umbele. God of the Dead Salinger. God of Spiritual Creatures Talsna. Although Klein had expected this, he was still somewhat stunned. The former Rose Redemption was frighteningly powerful. Amongst the 7 deities today, 6 of them were members. There was also Death, the god of spiritual creatures, and 3 kings of angels. This made him recall what the Red Angel Evil Spirit had once said. Rose Redemption has a close relationship with the birth of the true creator. It's impossible for you to imagine that certain people were once members of Rose Redemption, but they've since left it.